Here's what you need to know about the IRS hiring third-party collection companies. Does the IRS hire third-party companies to collect tax debt? Yes. With that being said, here are the facts as of this video's posting. There are only 3 agencies that are authorized by the IRS to collect certain types of debt, and those debts are inactive. If the IRS elects to use a third-party entity to collect an inactive tax debt, they will notify you by U.S. Postal Service letting you know that they have elected to use a third-party entity to collect on that debt. And then the third-party entity will also send you a letter stating that they have been authorized by the IRS to collect on an inactive debt. The IRS will only assign one private agency to collect on that debt. They will not allow all 3 agencies to jump on you. So please keep that in mind. Other than these 3 groups, the IRS does not authorize any other private agency to collect on its tax debt. The private entity will identify themselves and they will request that you make payment to the United States Treasury. Private debt collectors who represent the IRS will not ask you to make a payment to a prepaid gift card, nor will that entity take enforcement action against you. At the end of the day, make the time to do your own research. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Is your company liable if the payroll company you hire does not file or pay any of your company's taxes? I received a comment on one of my YouTube videos from a business owner. I am an independent contractor in Oregon and I am being audited for state income. There are a lot of different reasons in the letter, but the biggest cause for concern is that my payroll company did not file my laborers' 1099s, and now Oregon State is trying to put those monies on me. Can I do anything about this? The short answer, no. I've done several short videos on this topic stating that your company is liable. I'm going to spend a little time on this subject because I do get this often where a company will contact me because they're being audited and the answer has not changed. But I'm going to give you some tips on how you can protect yourself when using these types of companies to help with your payroll taxes and any other documents that they are required to send out on your behalf. The general rule with the IRS and most states, if not all states, if you hire a company to help you with filing your W-2s, filing your 1099s, filing your income tax statements, and being responsible for submitting the payments on your behalf, and the company that you hire doesn't pay the taxes for whatever reason, the IRS doesn't care. Your company will be held liable for any money that you were supposed to pay. Not only that, if your 1099s, as with this person, if the money is not collected from those subcontractors, your company will also be on the hook for those taxes. They're not going to go after the subcontractors that you were supposed to submit 1099s. The buck stops with you and they're going to come after you for that money. So you're going to have to pay those taxes that your subcontractors didn't pay. You're going to have to pay the taxes that any employees didn't pay if your W-2s were not submitted. You're going to have to pay interest and penalties on that money. So please keep in mind, when you hire these companies, the buck ultimately stops with you. And while I'm on the subject, that also includes wage garnishments. Let's say your company has a court order, it came in the mail, and you are responsible as a company to pay wage garnishments for an employee that works at your company. If you ignore those types of court orders and your company does not submit the payments on those wage garnishments for that employee, at some point, the court is going to come after your company for the full amount of that wage garnishment. Now, here are my suggestions on what your company should do if you elect to hire a payroll company to pay your company's taxes and file its documents. My clients depend on me to file their W-2s, their 1099s, and all of those types of documents, and in some cases, pay the taxes. What you can request as a business owner from any entity that's providing those services, you want to ask for proof that that work has been done. And in my case, when I use the service I chose to file my clients' taxes and W-2s, that company sends me a confirmation email. And let me show you how that looks on my end. I receive proof from the entity I use that the recipient copies of the tax forms I submitted have been printed and mailed. I can then take this information and send it to my client as proof that the work had been done. Not only that, the service I use also sends me another email. I receive an email from the service I use that shows that the IRS has accepted my electronic filings. So this is something that you as a business owner can request from the entity you choose as proof that they were able to complete that task. Okay, Nina, well, I didn't do any of that, and I'm now being audited by the state or whatever entity is auditing you. Is there anything you can do? There's only one thing I can think of off the top of my head with regard to what can be done in this situation. Keep in mind, I'm not an attorney, but I do read a lot of contracts on behalf of my clients. Within the contract you sign for any type of payroll entity, there may be some type of clause. And that clause can say, we're not liable if we make a mistake. It could say that if we did make a mistake, we will pay any penalties and interest, or we may pay any penalties or interest if it is proven that the mistake was our fault. The best thing you can do in this situation is read the agreement that you signed to see what liability that payroll entity will be willing to accept. At the end of the day, when you hire anyone to do anything on behalf of your company, documented proof from a third-party entity is the best way you can protect your company and ensure that the work has been done. Also, a lot of these payroll companies have reports, and they have documents that they send you as proof that they've done their part of the job. So if you're not getting any type of information from the payroll entity that you hire, that's a red flag. And that's when you have to stop and start asking questions to make sure you've performed your due diligence as a leader, as a business owner, to make sure that the tasks have been completed. We're discussing my IRS audit best practices. There are a number of ways you can prepare for an IRS audit. Use the information in this video as a guide to help your company prepare its unique processes as it relates to IRS or other audits by a government agency. As I stated in my last video, the IRS intends to increase business audits by 50% in 2021. What processes do your company have in place as it relates to any type of audit, whether it's IRS or any other entity? As a whole, I think audits of all kinds are going to increase. And here's something interesting that I read about. The IRS is continuing to receive additional funding for their artificial intelligence program. And as they modernize their AI program, I think they're going to start doing more audits in that manner. Now, when a business owner thinks audit, they think IRS. But there are a number of government agencies that can audit your business for any reason, and I'm going to put a link to a video here that discusses that topic. This video is going to focus on IRS audits only. According to the IRS website, if a representative suddenly shows up at your door, it's because a letter that was mailed to you to your last known address was sent out and they received no response. Chances are they probably sent more than one letter, and they probably even tried to make a phone call or two. IRS representatives have pocket credentials. They will provide official credentials called a pocket commission and an HSPD-12 card embedded with an integrated circuit chip storing 64 kilobytes of information, including digital photo, interoperable fingerprint templates, and other information. If requested, the IRS representative will provide a toll-free verification number. And I would enter that toll-free verification number in a search engine just for my own peace of mind. A collection employee won't demand immediate payment to any other entity other than the U.S. Treasury. And IRS employees who are conducting criminal investigations will never demand money. Again, this is according to their IRS website. Let's say everything checks out and verification is established. Take photos or keep logs of the inspection or audit. Please don't volunteer any information. Speak when spoken to. That way, if you're a gabby person, you won't give up any unnecessary information. Ask for a review at the end of the audit or inspection. If anything, that IRS representative should be able to tell you if they found any violations and what's the next step. If the IRS auditor found any violations, those should be presented to you in writing, and they should involve some sort of appeals process. Be sure to contact your attorney and let them know the results of the audit, and give them copies of any documents that you received from the IRS auditor. If the audit went well, let your employees know. Not only would that give them a morale boost, that will let them know that they're working for an honest employer. At the end of the day, make the time to do your own research. Do like I did, review the IRS.gov website to find out additional information about IRS audits, third-party collection companies, and more. What tips do you have for any company that's looking forward to an IRS audit? This IRS notice takes effect immediately. On July 4th, 2023, the Internal Revenue Service will end most unannounced taxpayer visits by revenue officers. This will reduce public confusion and enhance overall safety measures for taxpayers and employees. The growth in scam artists bombarding taxpayers has increased confusion about home or business visits by IRS revenue officers. Sometimes scam artists appear at the door posing as IRS agents, creating confusion for not just the taxpayer, but local law enforcement should they be called. Ending unannounced taxpayer visits will aid in protecting the IRS workers in an effort to deter personal threats, since there are various anti-tax groups with malicious intent using the internet or social media to track down and identify IRS employees, their family members, their home addresses, and other personal information to intimidate or locate them for ill harm. In place of unannounced visits, revenue officers will make contact with taxpayers through an appointment letter, known as 725B, and schedule a follow-up meeting. At that time, taxpayers whose cases have been assigned to a revenue officer can schedule face-to-face meetings and designate a place and time. Now, don't get it twisted. There are a few unique circumstances where unannounced visits will take place. The IRS noted there will still be extremely limited situations where unannounced visits will occur. These rare instances include service of summons and subpoenas, and also sensitive enforcement activities involving seizures of assets, especially those at risk of being placed beyond the reach of the government. To put this in perspective, these types of situations typically number less than a few hundred each year, a small fraction compared to the tens of thousands of unannounced visits that typically occur annually under the old policy. Both the IRS revenue officers and the taxpayer are totally stressed out by these visits. Personally, I believe this is a good change. What do you think? Have you ever had an unannounced visit by the IRS?